Hi, my name is Dr. Felicia and I'm a licensed psychologist. And in today's video, I'm going to be answering the question, why is self-expression so hard after spiritual abuse, right? A lot of times people find it very difficult to express themselves after and during spiritual abuse. And this is going to be part of a series and a playlist on my channel called Why Is It So Hard?, in which we explore why certain things become especially challenging after spiritual abuse. So on the topic of the video, one reason why expressing yourself can be so challenging after spiritual abuse is because self-expression in and of itself is a very punishing experience within the spiritually abusive environment. Um, I've heard of people telling me, people have told me rather, that as they've been, in these spiritually abusive environments, that they feel like if they express themselves in a way that's not in agreement with the spiritually abusive environment's rules, then they get punished. It's a punishing experience. And what I mean by punishing is they may get called out in front of everybody, which is, quite embarrassing and shameful, or they may get called aside. But either, whatever the reason is, or whatever the punishment is, it makes it difficult to continue doing that. So if you think about how people express themselves just in general, right? You're going to have people that are pretty demonstrative, and then you're going to have people that are more subdued, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, in spiritually abusive environments, people have been told that they are, they've been told that they have character flaws or that they're not genuine because they don't worship in a certain way. And a lot of times it's because their worship is not as demonstrative as others. People have told me that they've been interrupted even in the middle of worship, and said, hey, how come you're not doing whatever this thing is? And, spiritually abusive environments, one thing to know about them and institutions is they favor appearance over authenticity, meaning that it's all about looks. It's all about us looking good, everybody in our, institution or whatever looking good at the expense of being authentic. And so instead of allowing somebody the freedom to express themselves, obviously in a reverent manner, but express themselves the way they want to in worship, whether it's subdued or demonstrative, that's not happening in this type of environment because they're very married, well, whatever, they're very invested rather in a particular appearance, right? And so that's why it's challenging for people to feel like they can express themselves. And it's not just in worship, it could be things like writing or, reading, leisure activities, whatever it is. People have been told that certain things are bad, so don't do them. And also too, just words, right? People's words, language is weaponized in spiritually abusive environments. So sometimes people will be interrupted when they say something. Oh, you shouldn't say that. That's low vibrational. That's attracting this and whatever. You should say this so that only positive things happen in your life. So it can be very difficult because you just feel like you're always silencing yourself, muting yourself, or conforming how you express yourself so that you can stay safe in that spiritually abusive environment. So I don't want you to feel ashamed of yourself when you are leaving, when you've left or are leaving, and you still find it hard to express yourself. That was a survival mechanism for you to exist in that environment, because people who do express themselves can be treated very harshly. And as you've learned, it's a punishing experience. The second reason why it can be really challenging to express yourself in a spiritually abusive environment is because of punishing, well, not just punishing spirits, I talked about that before, but paranoia, right? And so people have often said that, when they say something, they have to be careful who they talk to because it could get back to someone else. It's going to get back to them in a different way than from what was intended. And so I remember listening to a particular podcast about a particular congregation where somebody mentioned something. And I think they said, oh, that they were, a little bit unhappy about something that happened, but it wasn't that big a deal. And this person ended up, whoever heard that told someone else who told someone else. And then they got a sit down and a talking to because they were, expressing themselves. And they say, oh, you're gossiping, and no, we don't accept that here. And she wasn't gossiping. She just said, hey, like, this is something I'm not too pleased with pertaining to her own life. And so there can be a lot of paranoia, maybe afraid to speak up because of how it's going to be construed, not only judged and punished, but also accused of things that you are not doing. If you were, I know that we think about gossiping as a negative thing, right? But if you are talking with somebody and sharing your experience, that's not gossiping. I'd like for you to actually go to the dictionary and look at what gossiping actually means. So a lot of these environments will accuse people of gossiping when they are simply sharing their experience with somebody else. And so, when you are in that environment, you feel like, hey, there's, I can't trust anyone. So when you get out of that environment, it still may be very difficult for you to even express yourself through words, or sharing certain emotions, because you're just always concerned about it being right or you doing the right thing. Okay. Another thing is that, I talked about this too on this channel, is that we build skills, right? That's part of the reason why my practice is called skill set counseling, because when we're learning, when we are wanting to achieve a certain goal and a behavior in our life, part of it relies on a skill that we practice repeatedly. And this is no different. When you are in a spiritually abusive environment that limits or controls self-expression, your self-expression skills are going to become rusty. And so that's why it's really important for you to practice that. And so it's no wonder it's challenging, because you didn't really have many opportunities to do that before. And remember, even though you're spending time in that institution physically, maybe 1 or 2 or whatever hours per week, that follows you home. Spiritual abuse seeps into every area of our life. And so that's why it can be hard to do the same thing, even when you're not in that spiritually abusive environment in the present, or you've left altogether. So how can we polish up those rusty skills? One thing I'm going to recommend is having a video journal. Self-expression through writing is okay. And if you really feel uncomfortable filming yourself, then go with the writing. But the reason why I recommend video journaling in this case is because there's no audience, it's just you. You learn to speak from your heart, and then you learn to watch yourself too as you've done that. And you're not watching yourself to critique yourself. You are watching yourself or listening to yourself because that's the real you speaking up. And it takes time. So when I say video journaling, let me clarify, it doesn't necessarily have to be video. You could be just doing a voice recording of yourself, but I want it to be something where you're not just writing, where you're hearing yourself speak. Maybe there could be a video if you'd like, whatever it is. The point is, you are coming out of your comfort zone, practicing those self-expression skills. And then another thing that could help is just finding ways to express yourself in other ways that you like and that feel comfortable to you. Revisit an old hobby maybe that you've let drop by the wayside and express yourself that way too. So I am looking forward to hearing from all of you in the comments. What challenges have you had with self-expression, and how have you overcome them? Are you still in the process? What sorts of advice could you give to others, and what kind of advice do you want from others? So and also, if you want to book your free consultation with me, email me. My email is in the description box. Okay, so do that instead of clicking on the link for now. Or you can click on the link. If you book the consultation and you don't hear from me within 1 business day, then just email me. All right, so I hope you have a wonderful day that is filled with peace and self-expression. Bye-bye.